Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Futurum Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Newman, founding partner, principal analyst at Futurum Research. Excited for today's interview series. I'm going to be talking to Shaun McCarthy, a friend of mine from the past that continues to be making big things happen in the connectivity mobile space. And first time on the podcast in a new role at a new company. And without further ado, Shaun, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm just going to bring you in. Welcome to the show. How have you been, my friend?
Hey, thanks, Dan. It's great to be here. I'm having fun as always. How are you?
Hey, it's good to see you. This industry definitely has lasting power. We say, there's chairs and people change chairs. In your case, you made a big move up, Shaun. Really excited to see you joined Nokia in the role of president of North America sales. And I want to talk a little bit with you about that today. But I do got to comment, because I always got to start with a little bit of small talk. Is it just me, or does it look incredibly cold out there behind you? I didn't. I put this. I'm in Texas. I put this jacket on when I saw your background. I was actually quite fine before I got here.
Yeah, no, I think last time we did one of these video podcasts together, I was living in Denver, and I've since moved back to my roots up in New Hampshire, and it's actually very cold out there today. I think it's going to be negative 13 degrees tonight. So it's a day to stay inside and be warm if you're in New Hampshire.
Hey, I was in Denver this week and it was like 1 degree.
Yeah, it's
And
cold in
I was
Denver.
in Boulder and everyone's like, it's not normally this cold. I'm like, no, just every time I come here, it's this cold. They're like, it's going to be 50 this weekend. I'm like, yeah, it's always going to be 50 after I leave. So, that's the trick of going to Denver or the great Northeast or my hometown of Chicago, where I swear it's colder than anywhere else on the planet. But that's why I moved down here to Texas. So let's start out with a little big picture, Shaun. Like I said, you took a big chair over at Nokia, but what was the driver? Why did you make that decision to come over and join the team at Nokia?
Yeah, no, thanks, Daniel. Really, it just came down to what I saw as a pretty interesting opportunity. Nokia is really a unique company, in the space that I play in, which is the traditional telco vendor space. And when you look across sort of the playing field of all the sort of big strategic vendors out there, the exciting technology providers out there, you quickly find there's three categories of companies. There are mobile networking companies, there are traditional networking companies, and then there are sort of software application companies. And actually, if you look everywhere outside of China, there's no one that plays in that full spectrum of capability, except Nokia, right? So it was a really interesting opportunity to join a company that can deliver outcomes for customers that no other single vendor on the planet can, because of the full broad scope of our portfolio. So that was probably the biggest selling factor for me. It got me most excited about the opportunity.
And of course, anytime you make a move, you always come into it with a set of kind of ideas. This is what it's going to be, and then you get in the chair. And I've been watching you in the chair, and it's been mostly airplane seats, but I'm thinking you've done some stuff in between. And then you start to kind of get a sense of what you're really up against. And I'm guessing, based on your enthusiasm, the social posts, the little bit of interactions that we've kept in touch throughout the time, you're feeling pretty good. But kind of now that you've had the chance, you've met the salespeople, you've met the international teams, you're starting to hear the story, you're getting in front of customers. What's got you most excited?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm as excited inside of Nokia as I was sort of entering the role. If anything, more excited about the opportunity. I'd say first and foremost, any company, it's the people, right? I mean, technology is technology, but the people are what make a company. And Nokia puts people at the heart of the company, and just really impressed by the amount of talent and sort of the passion that aligns with my passion. It's like the passion for customers, focused on customers and delivering customer outcomes. So we've got a great team here. There were some surprises. I will say, I knew Nokia was a really strategic vendor, specifically to the big CSPs, the big mobile providers in North America. But I didn't realize how entrenched we were in terms of like aligning and partnering with these customers, but also how it was a true partnership versus sort of that supplier, vendor relationship. And I think that comes down to the breadth. We're critical in so many different areas of the network, but also the radio network is such a critical part of the of the mobile suppliers, the mobile providers, strategies, right? Having really tight alignment and partnership with radio players, and the investment that they need us to continue to make there. So we invest about $4 billion a year in R&D, right? It's just an incredible amount of money. And so having this like partnership and this alignment is really critical for our customers. So that was a big surprise to me. But the team is amazing. The portfolio is firing in all cylinders. We're number one or number two in every market we play in terms of technology capability, and continue to focus on trying to get to number one in all of those areas. And then the customers are really, view us as a strategic partner. So it's been great. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. The R&D comment always really excites and entices me when I think about companies that invest big in R&D. Nokia doesn't always get the recognition in this particular space, but probably should. A lot of the innovation that we experience when we're running around connected on our devices anywhere in the world, we've sort of taken it for granted. And I talk about it a lot, on like sometimes on the device and the handset side, like with Qualcomm, we talk about it a lot from the lens of like all the technology that enables an Apple phone to be an Apple phone, and or a Samsung, whichever it is. And when it comes to the infrastructure required to enable an operator to do the job, Nokia is a company that is turned to, like you said, number one, number two in almost every major market on the planet. But a lot of people at times, they think about the company, they remember the old phones. I mean, when they think of Nokia, they think about the navy blue, and I think you guys have done so much to change that. Talk about that. Talk about the strategy now, because I liken it to like kind of IBM, when people still think of IBM as like a PC company, and it's not. You guys have a lot of that sort of same DNA right now, that you've really pivoted, really changed, and you're doing really important things. And it's not necessarily what the brand historically was, but where it's going. So what is that strategy now?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because Nokia is a 157-year-old company, right? And
Yeah.
start off making tires, right? And so no one thinks about that anymore, right?
Well, you
Now,
got past that.
right? And now our generation, we all grew up with the Nokia phones, right? And so we think about that, but the next generation doesn't, right? And so we're doing a lot to sort of reinvent ourselves as a company and make sure that as we do that, we need to do a good job of making sure people understand that, what we do today, right? And by the way, in the US, we cover 90% of the population from a mobile standpoint. 7 out of 10 fiber connected homes are delivered. The fiber is delivered via Nokia technology. So like, people are accessing, the internet. People are, being connected by Nokia, and they don't even know it.
And to be clear though, it's because you guys are not just not just selling hardware and infrastructure. You also have a lot of intellectual property that you license too, right? So there's two different ways they're buying your hardware, but sometimes it's not always like on a logo. They're licensing your IP, which ends up in products that you
That's
guys
right.
are contributing to.
That's right. All the major handset players are likely have Nokia intellectual property inside of them as well. So that's a whole other section of our business. But from a strategy standpoint, so first off, it all starts with purpose, right? And our purpose is we make technology that helps the world act together, right? And what does that do? That enables accessibility, right? Closing the digital divide. It enables sustainability. It enables productivity, the digitalization that needs to, the transformations that are all happening, right? And so how do we go like execute on that purpose? And it really comes back to our CEO Pekka Lundmark, who came in, I think, in 2020 timeframe, and basically came in to turn the company around and bring the company to profitability. And he, put in place this sort of reset, accelerate, scale strategy. Reset was really about relooking at the, how the company is structured and organized, and also, getting the portfolio where it needs to be, right? Bring the portfolio. We had lost some share in the RAN space. We had, different areas of the portfolio were not best in class. And what we've done, we largely have sort of caught up in all of those areas. And in some cases, we've even moved ahead in those areas. So it was sort of a reset of the portfolio. And then about a year ago, he kind of shifted us into this accelerate mode. Now the revenue and our results, we doubled, right? Our growth doubled in 2022 from 2021. So he's put us into this accelerate mode, and where we continue to be, in that accelerate mode, and eventually we'll transition into that next scale phase of the strategy. But the strategy is very simple, right? It's like focus on the customer, understand the customer's business, and make sure you can deliver outcomes for that customer, and ideally deliver outcomes that no one else can do because of the full breadth of our portfolio, right? So that comes down to what the strategy is about. And there's a huge focus on North America in terms of that strategy. North America is the most important market for us, and that's why I'm really excited about our ability to really drive growth and drive outcomes for our customers in North
So
America.
just lean into that a little bit, because Nokia has a huge and well understood brand across Europe, because obviously one of the largest, most innovative tech companies in Europe. And it's also that way here in North America and US, but doesn't always, because it's not a US based company. So
Yep.
you coming over, making the leap, I remember you talking to me kind of privately about how excited you were. I won't say much more than that, but that, you really had identified that giving the brand a boost here in the US was going to be, US North America was going to be so important, and why you were kind of so excited to have the chance to really lead that role. So talk about the market opportunity, what you're focusing on, the big bets that you're making, and
Yep.
kind of how North America is going to pan out under your leadership.
Yeah, and it's almost like the biggest secret of how invested we are in North America, and specifically how invested we are in the United States. It's the most important market for us, North America. We have 10,000 employees in North America. We have 7,500 of them, roughly, in the U.S. And so we're making tremendous investments into this market. It's about 30% of our revenue today. And just to give you like perspective, we have like 165,000 square foot of R&D lab space in the US, right? Huge investment. That's like 3 football fields of lab space in North America. And because it's such a critical market, and we continue to increase that investment. Someone used the term, and I don't know if I would use that term, but someone used the term like, well, you're almost like a dual citizen, Shaun, right? And in some aspects we are, because we're a Finland headquartered company, but this is a critical market that we continue to invest in. And listen, it's an interesting market too, because we are a major leader in the communication service provider market, the CSP market, specifically the mobile providers, but also the traditional wireline communication service providers. So that's the strategy, is continue to do more with those, continue to take share with those, drive outcomes and drive their success, which in turn will drive our success. But there are adjacent markets that we've been investing in for a few years now that are really coming to fruition. The enterprise market is a huge growth area for us. So we're hyper focused on continue to protect our investment and double down on our investment in the enterprise space. And there's a few things happening in the enterprise space. There's your traditional sort of connectivity. There's the data center sort of play in the enterprise. Those are kind of, I'd say, traditional enterprise plays for a networking company. The more exciting space is what I call the digitization of operational technology organizations, right? So IT went through their digital transformation. OT is now going through their digital transformation. And a lot of that is around, how do you leverage private wireless solutions? How do you leverage MEC, right? And bringing compute and bringing AI and ML close to these operations, and changing the way operations happen in these organizations, like driving additional productivity, driving additional safety. You've heard me say before, like, it's not about private 5G, it's about the outcomes that private 5G enables, right? And so that's a huge growth area for us. And then the other growth area for us is the web scale, the hyperscaler business. That's an area where I think we have just a tremendous opportunity to continue to grow our share there. We announced a win with Microsoft. We have a lot of exciting activities cooking there. It's just tremendous growth in these hyperscaler data centers, right? There's just so much growth happening there. And so that's something that we're going to continue to invest in, and listen to the customers, and drive, bring the best solution to the table, and hopefully earn more share.
Despite the macro, all the trend lines that you're pointing to have long-term strength. And so you and I've talked for a while. It's a little tougher out there right now. Cloud businesses are slowing, enterprise is slowing. But like you said, when you're share taking, that's always an opportunity. Every salesperson knows, and I know you're the president, but I'm an entrepreneur, and I always say I'm really just a sales guy deep down. Like, you're always selling your business, but share taking is an opportunity in every market. And so in these markets where you have some really strong product and innovation, and you have some differentiation, there's a great opportunity for you to grow even in a tougher macro. And speaking kind of differentiation, talk about how you're doing that. How are you looking at differentiation? From say an Ericsson. That's a company I think that often Nokia and Ericsson get stacked up right side by side, and people want to know what's the difference.
Yeah. 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 Listen, and I think that's one of the things that it can be a little frustrating is when we get compared to, to Ericsson, right? Because they play in this one silo, which is an important silo. Don't get me wrong. And it's a big silo, but our portfolio, spans this whole spectrum that they don't play in. Right. And then there are the traditional networking companies that don't play over here, in the RAN space. So, listen, we've continued to, try to innovate and we take, like I say, $4 billion investment. And to be fair, we were behind a few years ago. We made some product decisions without getting too geeky, but it was, around, do you use FPGAs versus system on chip technology? And we made some decisions that led to, feature gaps as well as price performance gaps. And it hurt us. But if you look at what's happening when we talk to customers, all of a sudden they're saying, hey, well, you've caught up, or in some cases you've passed ahead, right? And so there are certain, capabilities where we feel like we're hearing from customers that we've passed ahead. And that's around coverage and capacity generally. Like that's fundamentally the game in that space. And, ability to execute, right? Ability to move fast and execute. So we're winning in that market. We are, the market share leader in fiber deployments. We're doing a lot in the software space as well, right? Where we continue to win new franchises inside of the core, the packet core, the IMS core. Those are really the software brains of any network. And then we have a lot of adjacent capabilities in those areas where we have security. Like I was like, Nokia is a security company. Well, we're actually experts in 5G security, right? And so understanding how these networks are spun up, we're laser focused on not being a big, broad security company, but securing the 5G network. And we're doing really cool things there. We're doing cool things in analytics. We're doing cool things on helping our customers open up their networks with something we call software as code, to help customers monetize and drive APIs into the networks and spin things up. Good example would be, let's say Uber wants to create their own MVNO, right? So giving Uber all the APIs, and Uber's not a customer, or that's just a use case example that I think people can grasp. But those are the types of things that we're creating the opportunity for our customers to either grow their existing revenues or help our customers create net new revenues, so that we're focused on the customer outcome, and in turn it leads to goodness for us as well.
As you should be. The security thing is an interesting point, by the way, because security is massive. It's a really large opportunity, whether it's ransomware or surface threat surface management. The edge is obviously such an opportunity for black hats and those that are trying to commit cyber crime, cyber fraud, and you play such a large role. So I'm saying a lot of times we think about sort of securing the data center. Well, the data center is a very small surface relative to all the opportunity.
Right.
So playing there and being very focused is an opportunity that I think you guys could definitely lean into as a company. And by the way, most of the large tech companies are the biggest. I mean, Microsoft, you mentioned the partnership. Microsoft is the largest cybersecurity company in the world. And a lot of people don't realize that because they aren't necessarily branded for that. People think of Office and cloud, but security's got to be part of kind of your core DNA. It just does nowadays. You can't put products out there and not have thoughts about how you make sure they're safe and secure. And you can't just leave that up to everyone else.
Yeah, it can't be an afterthought, right? Security, you got to think about security up front and build it into the products. But what's unique about us is, we know So as the world moves to more and more software, right? And it's the core of networks is becoming software. So the brains of the network become software. We play and understand what's happening at that sort of almost that cloud, software platform layer, as well as the network functions. So when you understand what's happening with the network functions, they're getting spun up, they're getting spun down. You understand what's happening at the cloud layer. That's we're able to deliver, security capabilities that a traditional security company might not be able to do because they don't really understand. They don't have visibility. They don't understand what's happening at those network function layers.
So I've got a couple questions left for you.
Yeah.
One is a bit of a Dan's favorite questions to ask new leaders in companies, and this is especially in roles that are customer facing. I kind of asked you the question earlier about your impressions and how you felt now that you've gotten around, but you've also been out now around and you've probably gotten in front of some of the most important customers. You've sat in meetings. Maybe you're even starting to talk in them. I'm guessing you were probably if you were like me in the beginning, you're a sponge. You're listening and wanting to make sure. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you may have the biggest title in the room, but you also know what you don't know. And smart people like yourself tend to have that quality. But as you've been listening, kind of doing that listening tour, you're probably starting to get a sense of how your customers feel about the brand and the company. Uh, Talk a little bit about that, like kind of, what were you hearing? What surprised you? Any big innovation breakthroughs that customers are thinking about and really pulling Nokia in to be the main partner to help.
Yeah. I think the best way to answer that is to share some of the cool things we're doing
Yeah,
with
give
them.
us
Right.
names,
Right.
details, links,
Yeah. So,
uh, or anonymize them.
you
I
know,
mean, that's fun too.
there's the now, which I can talk about in a second here, and then there's kind of what's emerging in the future, which is some really cool stuff. I'll be honest with you, the metaverse was a little bit buzzwordy for me before coming here and really spending time with the team. But the metaverse, every time I hear folks talk about it, and I kind of like peel back the onion, gets more and more interesting and exciting to me. You know, the metaverse economy is supposed to be, I think it's like $8 to $13 trillion by 2030. So that's the projection, right? Now that's a big, broad scope. And we view it end up getting segmented into three different types of metaverses. There's a consumer metaverse, there's an enterprise metaverse. So consumer metaverse is like, gaming and those type of things. Enterprise metaverse might be, maybe you're taking, conferencing in a different way. And then there's the industrial metaverse. We think we're going to be the big leader and a big major player in the industrial metaverse, which is, that's where all the digital twinning comes in. And by the way, the traffic by 2027, the industrial metaverse traffic is projected to exceed the traffic of mobile handsets. That's actually a mind-boggling statistic when you really think about it, because the traffic is like nothing today, right? It's like almost like ChatGPT went from like nothing to right in a few weeks. So we see that happening with the industrial metaverse, and we are really, really well positioned. So there's a traditional connectivity that's obvious, but we're building a lot around software platforms, tooling, enablement. And again, that it comes down to the fact that we play all this broad role. We're not just this point player, in this piece of connectivity or that piece of software, right? We've got this broad capability. And so we're really excited about that opportunity, which is super early and emerging. But we're doing some really cool things with customers, and there's one I can't share the name of the customer, but a major utility player. We just closed a deal with them, and the problem they want to solve for is when the windstorms come, or any storm comes and the power line goes down, it starts a forest fire, right? And so we built a private network for them. We leverage our IoT solutions, and we built a platform. And there's a bunch of use cases are going to continue to add to the platform. But the first use case is it prevents forest fires. It shuts the power off when the sensor triggers to the network, right? So really cool use cases like that. There's a lot of that falls into that private wireless use case, and we're doing a lot with like great partners. Kyndryl is a partner we're doing a ton of work with. We continue to do more and more with them, and what they're a great partner because we bring a lot of the technology together, But as you know, like connectivity is connectivity, but then you got to bring the mech in, and you need to deliver, build the apps and put the pieces together to deliver the outcomes for the customer. So we're doing a lot in that space. Closing the digital divide is something I'm really passionate about, right? So sort of, creating a level playing field. If you live in, some little small town in Kansas, you should still be able to get the best education. You should be able to get the best job from wherever you are, with the internet. If we ever have another pandemic, you should be able to continue to have, you shouldn't have to sit in a McDonald's parking lot to get access to the internet so that you can be in school. I mean, these are real things that have happened. So, we're hearing these amazing things for customers as we continue to just drive these outcomes for them, if that helps.
Yeah. Did that help? Of course it helps, Shaun. Um, I got to wrap it up, but I do want to say a couple things. I just want to, double click on a couple things you said. First of all, the emerging applications in the metaverse. I like that you brought it back to pragmatism. After CES, I went on CNBC and I talked about the metaverse because everyone thought the metaverse was going to be this huge thing. Then the stock market went down, and then it was no longer an important thing anymore. We've seen similar waning interest in things like sustainability, and it's unfortunate that sometimes companies, when times are good, are doing the important things, and then when times get rough, they cut them back because they're not as directly applicable. But the thing you mentioned is these technologies can be directly applicable to an experience in the future that becomes more monetizable and more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's analytics driven sustainability, where people understand where it brings shareholder and stakeholder and customer value, or how you can improve material supply, material supply chains to get more efficient but sustainable materials. On metaverse, though, you mentioned like the digital twin, the ability to test a product in a fully digital, autonomous, synchronous environment, so that you don't have to build as many cars and smash them to know whether they're going to be safe. To be able to design the next version of a bicycle to be lighter weight and more robust without having to build as much prototype, use as much materials, have as much expense, or surgeons figuring out how to perfect a complicated procedure in a digital twin to be able to reduce the cost and save lives. And so what I mean is when you take these technologies and you take them out of the lens of, crypto and
Right.
the weird metaverse of floating around and talking to your friends on Facebook in an alternate reality, and you look at it more through the lens of the real meaningful ways these techs can be applied, Shaun, it's really important. And companies like yours that are helping develop the connectivity and mobility and the throughput and the backhaul and all that infrastructure required is actually how these things end up happening on our devices. So the work you're doing is very important. The opportunity for Nokia is palpable. And I do hope that under your leadership, the company can continue to grow and shine and compete. I always say a competitive and healthy ecosystem drives the most innovation. And so I'm excited to see what's in store. I'm excited to see you at MWC. We're going to stand up live. We're going to have another video, you, me, and Pat Moorhead on the 6.5. But for this episode of the Futurum Tech Podcast, Shaun, thanks so much for joining me. Congratulations on the job and all the work you're doing at Nokia.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great seeing you, Dan.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you back for all the interviews with me and the other folks across the Futurum research community. So many great interviewees and, of course, in-depth conversations about the most important topics to you, the person that cares about tech and the future. For Futurum Tech Podcast, I got to say goodbye now, though. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all later.